Okay, so today we're going to be doing portraits again, but this time we're going for something bolder and brighter, so a different kind of style, slightly semi-abstract. And this is an example of one that we did on Monday. It's on sugar paper, just the A4, it's not a large sheet, coloured background, it works well. So this isn't a card, it is actually sugar paper, and that helps with the oil pastels which we will be using. So what we start by doing is take our sugar paper. I'm using orange. You can use any colour you like, but I wouldn't recommend anything too dark because of the colour you'll be putting on top. Then you need your carbon paper. Remember to put that the right way round. And then a picture of your choice. I'm going to use her this time. Remember to tape it down so that it's not moving around too much. Again, I'm just going to tape down two sides so that I can flip it up and just double check that I'm putting enough pressure on and the picture is coming out, the tracing is coming out. Now we're not going to be doing as much detail as we were when we did the charcoal drawing, because this is we just need the very basic outlines of the nose, the eyes, the mouth and the jawline, but still do remember that less is more. We won't be drawing in too much of the nose, so I'll just start with the nose to show you. So we'll do the nostrils like we would normally do, like that, and the corner of the nostrils like that, but I'm not going to be putting in any of these lines here. I'll put in a little flick just there. But again, we'll be putting in colour here. We don't necessarily need, you know, big black lines. And then I'm going to put in her eyebrow here. Now you don't have to be too careful. All of this will be covered with the black oil pastels. So putting, I think this is Cara Delevingne, putting her eyebrows in, and then we're going to put in the top of the eye, just like that. We'll still be a bit cautious about that bottom eyelid, because I don't necessarily want black lines everywhere. As you can see here, there's none of the carbon paper lines to see, so we're still being a bit careful. Put in a few little marks where the shading or the colour will come in. And down here. And again, her other eye. Let's put the black bit, the pupil in. Top of the other eye, the eyelid. That. Iris. Pupil. Flatten the iris here, show where that line of the bottom eyelid is. If there's a lot in shadow, don't attempt to make anything up and put lines in, just simply leave it, because most of that will just be coloured in with some colour. Oil pastels cover things pretty well, quite solidly, but they don't cover completely, so you don't want to put too many extra lines in that you don't need. So I'm doing her jawline and jawline down this side, like that, just flicking it up, just making sure that, yeah, they're all coming. Oh no, I moved that slightly. Yeah, that's working okay. Again, with the lips, we will be a little bit cautious about not putting a massive black line all the way through. We can do the centre line for her lips, that's fine. Going to do up a little bit of the bow on the top of her lips, a bit down there, but I'm just going to leave a little bit here. And the bottom of her lip, the shadow where the shadow's hitting the underneath of the lip. And I know that I don't have to put these lines in because I know that will just meet up there. Little line here just to help guide where the shadows might be. And a few flicks represent the hair, so I sort of know where it starts and stops. Again, do not put one solid line all the way around, it's just marks to show where that hairline begins on the forehead and where the hair ends over here. I'll put the neck in. Like that. If you're doing this picture, then you can see the marks that I made. I just made a little one under the lips, that middle line there. Again, I didn't put in too many solid lines here. That's just going to be done with shading. You can see the marks that I made there. Okay, that really probably should be enough for her. This kind of image is something you might expect maybe in a magazine, perhaps. It's quite illustrative, maybe a fashion magazine or something. If you were going to do a large portrait, then you could use the same technique, but instead of using pastels, you could use oil or acrylics. But as we haven't got those to hand, we'll be using the oil pastels instead. Okay, so I've finished her, so I shall carefully undo it. As I said, when I lifted up and had a look, I felt it move very slightly, so we'll see if anything awful happened. I think that's probably okay. Looks okay. So we have basic outline ready to use. Now, you can choose any colours that you like, but I mean, this is a sort of guideline. Obviously, I'm going to do it one way. If you wanted to go way out and use lots of different colours, then that's absolutely fine. My particular design, I'm going to use 4 main colours. So I'm going to use the blues, oranges, black and white. Now I'm going to choose 2 blues, so a dark blue and a light blue, and I'm going to choose 2 oranges, so a dark orange and then a sort of yellowy orange, and then the black is for all the outlines. We've got white for a little bit of highlight, and I'm actually going to use a separate colour for her lips. I'm going to give her realistic lips. That's entirely up to you. You don't have to give her realistic. They're hardly realistic, but yeah, coloured lips. So if, say, you decided to do it in green and red, then you would find a light green and a dark green, and a pale red and a more vibrant one. So you can. It's your choice which ones you use. I particularly like blues because I use blue a lot in my paintings anyway, where there is shadow. Shadows look best when they are done in a sort of blue hue rather than grey. Never do shadows in grey, because actually shadows aren't grey. It's just the colour of the skin, say, would simply be altered by being in shadow. It's not like a grey shadow has actually appeared. So I am doing her like this. So this side of the face is going to be mainly blue, because that's in shadow, and this side will be in the oranges and yellows. If you have a face which isn't quite as well defined, just choose which side is going to be which. So I would recommend this side to be the blue and that side to be the orange. And there is a slight amount of mixing the two anyway. If you look at this one, obviously the eyes are in shadow more, so that's why there's more shadow on this eye here. Okay, so obviously oil pastels are not precise things to work with. They're very chunky, and so you're not going to be able to get nice precise lines, and you just have to go with that and not worry too much. So we're putting in the outlines first. So I'll keep this one here as well, so that you can get an idea of where we're going with it. So remember, some charcoal. These can still smudge. They're still quite messy to work with, so do be careful about sort of if you're not doing something down here and then keeping your hand over it. I have a bad habit of doing lots of different bits, but I try and keep my hand above the paper and not on the paper. But yeah, I'll try and be good, and actually we'll start with the hair. So we're not putting all of it in, we're just putting in, say with her, where some of the darkest shadows would be. So just up here where the hair sort of flicks up, put some of that in. This is a linear and quite blocky image. It's not subtle. And remember, you can continue. It's not like you can only do one thing at a time. If you want to work back into it with more black later, that's absolutely fine. We're just putting in the basics now. If you want to define something more, you can go back into it. It's not an issue. I'm trying to keep, I'm putting quite a lot of pressure on. I'm trying to keep those black lines really dense. If I do here, obviously if you don't put much pressure on, you can see that you get a broken amount of oil pastel going down. As you can see, you can smudge it slightly. It's not as easy to smudge as charcoal, but it is slightly smudgeable. But so I'm putting more pressure on so that you don't get that brokenness. You get a much more dense sort of image coming through, line. Now, actually, pretty much for her, I'm actually putting a bit of shadow behind to make that jawline stand out, rather than actually drawing that jawline here. You don't have to do that, you can if you want. Just draw her in. I haven't done this image before, so it is I'm just making it up as I go along, to be honest. As you can see with this one, the black is behind the jaw rather than the actual jawline itself. And then pull that in, bottom, underneath the jaw. So over here, I'm actually drawing underneath the jawline slightly. Right, I'm going to go into her eyebrows. This time the eyebrows are going to be pretty much done all in one. No subtlety there, just blocking it in. And on that side. as I need to put some card under my picture because the wood grain of the table is coming through a bit. There we go. Because you can't really do any small marks, finessed marks. I tend to use lots of little marks so that you can sort of control it to a certain amount, to a certain degree. Use smaller marks. So I'm going to do eyelid on that one. This one's going to be quite dark, slightly bolder. And then eyes, and edges. Again, you can't really be precise with this. Okay. Now, I'm not going to sort of fiddle with these lines here that I've put in. There's little guidelines. They'll just are guidelines more for where the different colours will go down. Start blocking in this side a little bit more because it's darker. It's a lot of shadow, so just go with that. Now the nose, only do the nostrils. Those black nostrils are fine. Little marks there for that. Just going to put a little bit here, a little bit there, and leave it. Do not put any black down that centre line. Just leave that. That will be done simply by colour. And the lips, that central lip line is fine, and the edges. Probably just pop in a little bit for that top bit, and then underneath that bottom lip, help define it. So don't worry about putting too many black lines in at the moment. As I said, you can go back in and add more black afterwards if you decide you need more areas defined, but as usual you can't rub any of this out, which is why you need to sort of add it in gradually. So we've just done the sort of basic outline, and we don't want to put in too much just in case we put it in, we can't take it out if it ends up being too black. Okay, so now I'm going to start adding the colour. So I'm going to go for blue first. So blue is going to be down this side. The dark blue will be where the darkest shadows are. So in her eyes you've got its darkest there. So that will be dark blue, and then this upper eyelid will be light blue because that's lighter. We'll put a little bit of dark in the centre, the corner of her eye there, to darken that up. And then we'll put a little bit, actually I'm not going to put the darkest blue, I'm just going to put a bit of light blue down the side of her nose for that little bit of shadow there. If I decide I want to make it darker, I can add the dark blue on top. But yeah, do it gradually, build it up gradually, so that because if you decide you don't like it, there's not much you can do about it once it's down. So I'm going to put her blue in first. And as you see, I'm just using lots of little marks. Like that. I'm not going to do the entirety of the eye, because even though it's all in shadow, I know that it's curved, and actually this top bit would be paler anyway. I'm just putting a bit in there. A little bit of blue. Now you can have a choice when you're adding your colours. You can blend them a bit, or you can keep them completely separate. You'll just end up with different styles really. Mine is slightly blended. As you can see here, there's a certain amount of blending going in. where the two are mixing. But if you wanted to, you could literally keep it in very block colours and keep it very graphic. That will really be your choice. Blending oil pastels is literally, you just, you mix the two actually on the page. You can see I'm just doing lots of little marks over the top of the dark blue so that it's blending in slightly there. And coming down. Now, you can see here we've got dark shadow, and it's a little bit paler near that centre bit of the nose. I'm going to be a little bit more cautious. Just put a little bit in for now. I can always add more later on. Like that. And then a little bit under the eye. A bit blue here. Light blue, and then darker blue towards this edge. Now, I'm not covering the whole paper with oil pastels. The background colour of the paper is still shown through in lots of spaces, and that's fine. If you wanted to cover the entirety, again, that's your choice. You'll come up with a slightly different end result. In many ways, this is often harder than trying to create a realistic image because you are just making it up as you go along. You're not quite sure what the end result is going to be right until the end. It might work, it might not. So this is very much a case of playing around, seeing how things work. You may need to do another one at some point and alter things slightly. I know that the class that did this on Monday, some people actually tried to keep it much paler on the page, and they actually did it very more subtly by keeping it very light. And you could actually can still blend even if it's light like that. And they could try blending with their fingers. Again, it's not easy, but it can be done. So it is entirely up to you how you tackle this one. That's the problem, I think. That's why it's more difficult, because so much of it is personal choice and up to you. Oh no, I just dropped it. It's got a blue spot. There you go. So this side of her face is quite in shadow, so I'll put quite a bit of blue down on here. What I would recommend, actually, if you want to carry on working and trying this kind of thing, is that what you can do is you can, if you have a printer that will take this kind of paper, you can always do a drawing, the basic outline of the face, and then just print it onto. Keep printing it, and then you just work over the top of that of different prints, so you don't have to start from scratch every time. Okay. Just keep referring back to the image, the photograph, to see where the darker shadows are, and that's where you'd put more of the darker shades. It doesn't have to be completely blocked in solidly. You can see there's plenty of the original colour of the paper showing through underneath. I think I might leave that area. With this picture, I coloured in a lot of that side of the face. For her, I'm not feeling it in quite the same way. I might put less blue on, might put less oil pastel on altogether. You have to sort of go with your gut feelings. And as I said, just do small amounts first and then gradually increase what you're doing, increase the colour. Once you've done maybe quite a lot of it, then look back at it and think, right, where do I need to put more? And I'm actually going to pop in a little bit of red for her lips. I'm not blocking in the entirety of the lip at the moment, just sections of it. Okay, so I might put a little bit of blue on there as well. Dark blue there. And a little bit of blue, lighter blue. And here, I'm still trying to keep in mind, even though it's a very graphic image, keeping in mind that the chin is very curved. So you've got darker shadows, which is why I'm using the dark blue, and then it'll be lighter shadows as it curves over where the light will be hitting. And in the same way as when we did charcoal, I'm still leaving that slightly lighter line between the shadow underneath the jawline, and then you've got the darker shadow on the face, and then there's a lighter line in between, just there, which I will be leaving between the black and the blue. Might put a bit of white in there later, I don't know yet. There we go. I'm not going to colour in all of the neck, just putting a little bit in there. We'll put a little bit of blue under this side. And then a little bit blue, even though this is going to be the orange side, just a hint of blue there where there's a little bit more shadow. And a little bit of blue on the top. Remember, the lips are curved, that's not flat. The bottom lip is very nicely curved, which is why putting a little bit of the blue there, and then a little bit of the colour on. I don't think I'm going to put as much red on as I did with the other image. as you can see, there's already a slight difference really between the two styles, this one and this one. I think this one is, I'm definitely going to have slightly less colour on it, I think, than with this one. And I'm just making it up as I go along. It's just decisions that you make as you go. Now, I'm going to keep with the blue for the eyes. It'll help the eyes stand out. I think if you had, if this eye was just done in the yellow on orange shades, it might unbalance the picture too much, because these are the only area where you get two, obviously, that need to be balanced. And if you make them too different, the picture will feel too unbalanced, which is why I'm going to keep the blue on this side for her shadows. A bit of blue on the inside. Remember where it comes towards the nose, it's always darker. As it heads out this way, you've got the brow bone, which will be paler. So I've left those alone because that's where the light will be hitting. But it curves back down towards that top eyelid. Like, as you can see, I've put quite a, this eye is darker than that one. That's got more colour in it. I need to balance those back so that they're pretty similar. Irises need to be very similar to keep that image nicely balanced. Put a little bit blue still under here. Like that. For an image like this, you could almost leave it and not actually put any orange on. That's quite a nice image just in its own right. But I'm going to I said I was going to do two colours, so I'm going to do it and we'll see what happens. So there's going to be a little bit more shadow on this side. Even in the photo, it's almost completely white, really. It's very hard to see the shadow, but there is some shadow here, and we do know that the forehead is curved, so there would naturally be more shadow there. It's simply this photograph has been bleached out more. Orange down here, because we know that her cheekbones are here, so regardless of whether you can see it in the photograph. I've got a bit of blue on it there. Right, as you see here, there was some, my oil pastel picked up some blue and put it down there. To be honest, I can really get away with that. There's not a lot you can do to take that up. No form of rubber is going to work. This is a scalpel which I use for sharpening pencils, and actually that would work to pick it up because you're scratching it off. So if you have a sharp knife and you need to take up some of the oil pastels, that will work. It won't work completely, but it will lighten it somewhat. Most of the oil pastels come with these, this on it. Doesn't matter if it comes off, your finger's going to get mucky anyway. They all come off in the end. I'm trying to sort of blend those oranges together. Okay. Right, that's where I dropped my blue one earlier. So I'm going around it so that I don't smudge it out. It can just be a beauty spot for her. And by the jaw, get a little bit darker here. Put in a little bit of her ear there. Now, although I know that her hair is a completely different tone to the skin, I'm just flicking some of the orange onto it, because remember that the orange isn't really representing a real, a kind of realistic colour. Put a little bit under her eye, darken that up a little bit. I think I'll probably leave this side of the nose alone altogether. Probably put a little bit more in of the blue, just a little bit down that side. A little bit towards the bridge of the nose, so that you get the idea that it's that there is a little bit of shadow on there. Otherwise, it can look a bit like a lion if you don't put a little bit of colour or tone in there. Let's see, a little bit more on the hair. Right, and I have to remember to keep my hand up off the paper so I don't smudge it all. A little bit up here. I probably won't do all the hair. I'll probably leave some of it alone. Like that. Now, I have to make the decision whether to put a little bit of shading on this cheekbone. Be quite careful not to overdo it. I think that works fine. And just increase the shadow a little bit on this side of the nose, but I'm ignoring a lot of that shadow. If you put a huge block in here, then it will look like she's got a weird lopsided moustache. So just putting in a hint of that. bit more shadow here. And so then we can put in a little bit of white. As we did before, you're just putting in little bits of highlights, so a little bit in the eye, like that. Again, be careful, obviously the colours can muddy up, as it did here, so if you need to sort of clean it, just, you can use your fingernail if you want, just to very lightly scratch off any additional colours that are on there that you don't want. Or you can use a little knife. Obviously you don't necessarily all have scalpels, but it's useful to have some kind of craft knife. Like that. So I'm just going to put a little bit of white just at the top. Again, be cautious with the white. Add small amounts at a time. A bit up here, and I'm going to put a few flicks in for the hair. A little bit down here. Touch on the nose. And on the lips. And top the chin. Top of the brow there. Few extra flicks on the hair. A little bit on the top of her cheekbone. Being more cautious with this than I am with the colour, adding a little bit at a time. Okay, so you see two quite different pictures really in the end. I've really knocked back the colour on this one compared to that one. They're both quite interesting. I'm just going to back into this one a bit. This one is it's got a bit more sort of graphic there. Okay, so I think I probably will leave this picture here for now. I might come back to it and put a little bit more in on this side, but as you can see, it's ended up being quite a different version to this one, and that's why really, each piece is going to be very individual. There is no right or wrong way, and it all comes down to the decisions you make as you're doing it. And I was quite happy with that picture, so I kind of feel like I just want to leave her alone now. whereas I really enjoyed putting the extra colour on this one. So, you know, play around with them, do exactly as you want. Even as I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'll just add a bit more here. You know, I probably will keep playing with it. Oh, I think I might put a bit more blue there, so you see. Yeah, you sort of come back with a fresh pair of eyes as well sometimes. If you think you've done enough, leave it alone, put it away, come back, you go have a cup of tea, come back and have a look at it and think, actually, I think I might put a bit more here or a bit more there. So, which has happened here. I've given myself a couple of minutes and I've come back to it and thought, actually, I might add a little bit more. Okay.